Okay, it's been a minute since I've done a wrestling video. Well, actually, I did one yesterday, sort of. But today, I'm talking about this whole fake outrage with Roman Reigns calling Seth Rollins a cross-dresser. Now, if memory recalls, Roman Reigns, during this whole thing with Seth Rollins, which I don't know why he's even involved in this, The Rock and Cody Rhodes, during this whole thing, he has made reference to Seth Rollins dressing in his wife's clothes on several occasions, and there's been no outrage. Yet now, because he flat out calls him a cross-dresser, which that's what a cross-dresser is. A man that wears women's clothes, or it could be a woman that even wear a woman that, although you don't hear it that much, even where a woman wears a man's clothes. Now all of a sudden we're getting this fake outrage that Roman's transphobic and this and that. Y'all want him to not have that belt so bad, and I think that's where some of this is coming from. It's not that what he said. It's because y'all want him not to have the belt anymore, and him and Cody Rhodes, who I still don't believe should be the one to end it. Y'all want him to not be the champion anymore so bad. And I get it. This 3 to 6 months off without defending the title and all that. Yeah, I feel you on that. I feel you. Even Brock wasn't this bad. Brock would at least come back for the big events or for one of the smaller pay-per-views in between. At least one of the small pay-per-views in between. Roman is now getting to where he doesn't even do that. So, that said, this whole fake outrage about him being calling him a cross-dresser, y'all need to have several seats on that, in my opinion. Because if you think that is so terrible, so bad, you guys would never have survived the late 90s to early 2000s, the Attitude Era, ECW, and a lot of the other crazy stuff that was even going on in the early 2000s with TNA and Ring of Honor. You wouldn't have survived that era. And my era, the 1980s, you definitely wouldn't have survived. I mean, you had Dusty Rhodes getting his eye nearly taken out by the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors, on national television. You had Ted DiBiase before he was the $1 Million Man, getting busted open by the late Captain Redneck Dick Murdoch on basically national regional at the time, but you might as well say national television because Mid-South was syndicated in some areas. Busted him open and then took him and gave him the brain buster suplex on the concrete back when they didn't have mats. You wouldn't have survived the Von Erichs and the Freebirds, where at least one member of each team was busted open nearly every match. You wouldn't have survived Magnum TA at Starrcade 85 against Tully Blanchard, sticking a wooden shiv into the head of Tully Blanchard. You say I quit. You say I quit. Tully yelling, yes, yes. And he technically didn't say I quit, but I think that was a ref call, which I think was a good call, because if that man was willing to go that far to win the U.S. title back at that time before his terrible accident, I'd have been like, Ric Flair, you might want to stay away from Magnum. If he's willing to do that for the U.S. title, what will he do to get the world belt? But anyway, my point is, you couldn't have took, even in the then WWF, you couldn't have took them. You'd have been screaming outrage when Randy Savage had Ricky Steamboat's throat over the ring bearer. He went to the top rope, to the outside, dropped the double axe handle on Steamboat, causing his throat to go into the ring barrier, and he was breathing, acting like he was choking to death. You wouldn't have survived Randy Savage once again get bit by Jake the Snake Robert and the King Cobra on national television. You wouldn't have survived the Ultimate Warrior getting stuffed into a coffin by the Undertaker when he's breathing his last breath trying to get out. You wouldn't have survived the 4 horsemen jumping dusty roads in the parking lot, basically committing assault on national television and having it taped and played on national television. You wouldn't have survived the 4 horsemen busted into the Faces locker room to jump the Rock and Roll Express, rubbing Ricky Morton's face into bare concrete, causing him to be busted open along the cheekbone all the way down to the chin. And there's many, many, many other examples I can come up with. But if you're this bad about Roman Reigns calling Seth Rollins a cross-dresser, you wouldn't have survived the Attitude Era, the late 90s, the early 2000s of WWE, Ring of Honor, TNA, ECW, heck, even WCW. Particularly Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner. But you wouldn't have survived my era either. With Mid-South, Jim Crockett, Florida Championship Wrestling, or should I say Championship Wrestling from Florida, World Class Championship Wrestling, was doing all kinds of crazy stuff and saying all kinds of out-of-pocket stuff that would be considered very out-of-pocket today. So, sit down. What Roman Reigns said was nothing. Y'all just full of fake outrage. You need to grow a set, sit down and shut up and enjoy the ride. I'm out.